Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone in between, I am OverHugs, and I would like to welcome you back to Building Bread. Thanks for choosing to join us on the adventure today. Today, we're going to be doing something with this morass of sheep that I've bred up that's standing behind us, looking kinda hungry. I'm a little concerned they're going to try and eat my face. And we know how I feel about that. So, one of the things that we want to do with all these sheep is we're looking to build a wool farm. And let's fly over to the area that we've selected for it. And if you look here, we've cleared off the top of this hill, like just to make it nice and flat and prep. And why do we want wool? Now, wool can be used for quite a few things. It's a good building block. It has a lot of texture to it, as well as it can be used to produce bunches of different colored carpet. And carpet's useful for a bunch of different reasons, and it's going to be necessary for one of the farms that we're building next. That's a little bit of a spoiler, but it is definitely another episode. So, off camera, I've gone through and bred all these up because it's not the most interesting thing to watch feeding wheat to sheep over and over again and then waiting for the 5-minute cooldown in order to be able to breed them. But we're going to need 16 sheep in total because there are 16 different colors of wool, counting the default white, in Minecraft. And we're going to want a decent supply of just about everything because it's a pretty handy block. I do like it. It's extremely heavily textured, which doesn't work out so well in some builds, but it's usable. It's definitely a good one. And these sheep are kind of freaking me out a little bit. Those dead blank eyes. So I think we're going to run away really fast and go over to the site of where we're going to build our farm and walk through exactly how you do it. Don't look at me that way. All right, so let's walk through how you create a wool farm. And it's really pretty basic. This isn't going to be anything that you haven't seen before because it builds on a lot of the concepts that we've already introduced. So first of all, we'll start by putting down a double chest and putting a hopper into it. On top of that hopper, we want to put a rail, and on top of that rail, we want to put a hopper minecart. This is exactly what we did before when we were building the general mob farm, so that we can pull through a block that is above it. So we're knocking the rail out so that the hopper minecart doesn't move, because it's very easy to knock it out of position. Hey everybody, Hugs from the future here. I just wanted to point out that during that I made a slight mistake. So when I was building that, I knocked the hopper minecart off its rails, and the problem is if you do that, it will not pull things from solid blocks above it. A hopper minecart needs to be sitting on rails in order for that to work, and this is something that I figured out halfway through the build of the farm. So you'll see me at a point go through and knock all the hoppers off again and have to redo them. So if you're following along or you were doing this as a tutorial, please don't do that. Don't be me. Learn from my mistakes. We all learn together here. And what we need to do is we need to put a grass block above it. The reason we're putting a grass block is because sheep need to eat grass in order to regenerate their wool. Every time we shear them, they will not regenerate the wool until they eat the grass. So we want to give them the most options in order to do it. And we can detect whenever they eat the grass through an observer. The observer face pointing into the block here will tell us when this block updates because the sheep has eaten it. So we still need to power the block that's going to be doing our shearing, which is going to be a dispenser. And we're doing that with that regular, any old solid block. And we want to make sure that we put a redstone like blob like that, not the dot. Those crosses are important or this won't work because it will not reach out to power this dispenser. And inside this dispenser, we're going to put a ton of shears, which will last us a very long time because each shear has over 200 times that it can come and snip. And they're randomly used throughout the dropper. It can be any of these slots. So while it's going through, it will last basically forever, as much as we need for the amount of wool we'll need probably for this entire series. But if you wanted to add more, you could always do another hopper in there with a chest or some kind of rail storage system. So what we need to do is we also need to make sure that the sheep doesn't go anywhere. So we're going to block it in with glass like we're doing right now. And it has to be 2 blocks high or else the sheep will just come right out. But that's about it. If we knock away these retainer blocks that were keeping the glass in place, this is what we're going to build. At this point, it's done. And to just do one final test, we can destroy this block and it should spit out a stick, which it does. So the only thing we have left is to complete this a bunch of times. So let's take a super speed potion and go into a time lapse. So that was a fun build. I really enjoyed that one. We spent a lot of extra time going through and detailing and doing things like creating a little cave there with some life to it and really trying to make this a established part of the landscape. Most of the things, like I said in a previous episode, have just been farms, so I'm really enjoying the fact that I get to go through in detail and bring life to a scene as opposed to just create something that's going to spit out blocks to create the next thing that's just going to spit out blocks. So why don't we go check this out a little bit? And we did a lot. We terraformed this entire back because it just didn't look right, and added in a whole bunch of grass and flowers and everything, as well as just came through and put in a little bit of extra detail. I didn't like the way this looked in the beginning, so I put down these spruce pressure plates. Most of this build is done in spruce, in blackstone, and in smooth stone. So it was just nice to really work within that palette and go through. And you can see I let this farm AFK overnight, and it's pretty successful. We've got a decent amount of stuff already, and it's basically the same all the way down. And I can go back here and check the back, and you can see these dispensers have barely been touched at all. These will last a very long time, probably to filling these double chests several times over. And now that we have these carpets, we can do a whole bunch of tricks. I've shown what each color is out here just so that I can get a good idea of palettes that I want to work with. But we've also basically done a trick that you've seen before, where we were hiding torches under carpet. And we can do this in order to light up this entire area. if I go through here and turn on the thing that shows where mobs can spawn using these crosses and everything, you can see that none of this is here. This whole area is very well lit, and as we fly off, we can come back and see, even though you can't really see much in the way of lighting, we've lit up the whole area, so making it essentially spawn-proof. I also wanted to do quite a bit of detailing, and the reasoning for this is it just makes it look better. It makes Minecraft look better when you don't have a continuous texture everywhere. And like I said before, I know some people like that, and that's okay. If that makes you happy, then by all means do it. But I like the way something like this looks, where it goes up and down, it has three-dimensionality to it, it mixes up these textures that we're using a lot of different blocks, and it looks good to me. I really enjoy it. One of the other things that we did as part of this farm too is to bring a little bit of life to it. And this is being done using armor stands and invisible item frames. Basically, Cubfan here from the Hermitcraft server is helping me out by sharing these sheep. And there's a little bit of a mess, so we'll have to get some cleanup in there after the fact. But I also wanted to just have some blocks hanging like they've been shorn and dyed and they're drying out, as well as tools that you might need in order to get these shears, like you might need an anvil to build them and then a grindstone over here to hone it, so that it'll be nice and sharp and it won't hurt this very, very woolly sheep. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the trick basically with this cave. So the thing that I was looking for is where basically an underground river comes and it just flows out and creates this like mini waterfall that empties into this bay. The bay here was a little bit shut off. Like if you come out and look, it's largely blocked. There's only this one inlet, outlet, whatever you want to call it, and the other one is largely blocked. So I was thinking it would be kind of neat to have something feed into it. And maybe we make it even more sheltered by closing up the whole section. And picturing this as basically a lake that's being fed by underwater rivers coming from that cave and another one here. And the way that we created this is kind of an illusion because it looks like it's pretty deep in there. But if we go in, it's just very small black blocks. And this is basically one level above. If I were to punch through this, you'd start seeing the torches and the cobblestone. But it creates the illusion of depth because we have these black blocks within here. And this is just carpet, so it's spawn-proof, so I don't have to worry about any mobs coming in here. And that's one of the advantages, again, of the wool farm, is that we have these different textured blocks, like pretty heavily textured, that give us the ability to do things as well as the carpet. And so basically the thought of this is that anything that's near the water is going to have some plant life to it, which is why I'm using this mossy cobblestone as well as the vines that are hanging down. This is a freshwater river that feeds in, so it should have a great deal of life to it. And we just basically went and bone mealed everything that was here in order to create this seagrass. And it's a pretty nice effect. I'm happy with it. And lastly today, I wanted to give a bit of an update of what we were doing with the rest of the stuff. So I've come through here and I've put some time in detailing our little mill. The mill building that has been heavily inspired by where I used to live. So this has now been mostly detailed. So we've done the front and the sides over here and built up this whole area. None of this existed before. So this has all been terraformed just to look a little better and so that it doesn't fall off a cliff. There's still a bit more to do, but I'm happy with it so far and it's going on the right track. Also created these windows in order to really break up the build and break up the brick texture some more rather than just putting in the granite and the polished granite. And also, you'll see me use this trick a lot. I really like using stairs in places to make it look like bricks have popped out, or there's additional things that break up the texture so that it's not just a solid block. And this is just stairs put at different orientations, and you can completely cheat the build that way. It's actually pretty easy. As well as went through and created all of the glass that we would need in order to close this whole section up. So all of this is green stained glass now. It just gives it a nice effect. I didn't like it having be totally open. We're in an area where there is snow right up there. So for this to really be a greenhouse, it has to be closed. Bamboo being a relatively warm tropical plant, it's not going to do very well when we're this close to mountains blowing cold air at it. And so that's most of what's been going on with this area. The only other thing I've been experimenting with different lampposts. One of the things that we do need to do is add in some more light and really start creating this area so that it's not just a big ugly slab of stone. And so I played around with this light here, which is just like a regular T-shape. And I also made this individual tree. Like, this is a completely crafted tree. And in here, there are daylight detectors and there are redstone lamps. If I go and fly to the top of this tree and land, first try, there's the detector. So this is a daylight detector, but it's set on night. So if I were to flip it, you'll see the lamp light up. And the point of this is so that when the sun goes down, these will automatically turn on and start lighting up the area. The only other stuff here that you haven't seen before is we went to a jungle and grabbed some jungle wood and grabbed some, what even are those? I don't know what these are called, these seed pods. So we'll go over cocoa beans. So, and because this is what's necessary in order to make brown dye. You can't get brown dye without these, and they're super easy to do. Basically, all you have to do is grow it anywhere on jungle wood, and you just plant it and wait for it to grow. So, no problem at all getting all this stuff, and we'll automate this in a later episode. All the other dyes that we got during our farm building just come from flowers, with the exception of black. Black ink only comes from two sources: wither roses, which we did the farm before, so you know where those come from, or squid. And squid can just be found in any water source that is below 60 and I think above 30. I don't exactly remember what it is because we haven't built a squid farm, and that too is another episode. But everything else that you see of all the colors here just come from flowers. And we went and just harvested flowers around, went to a flower forest, and got everything we needed, and then combined the ones that are the combination colors. And this is definitely something that we'll want to automate, because we'll need a lot of dye in the future, especially if we're going to make the colored glass. That's something that you can't just dye once and then have an infinite supply like we have the sheep here. So I think that that's going to be an episode. So, once again, I wanted to thank you for choosing to spend your time on the adventure with me. I am OverHugs, and this has been Building Bread. As a reminder, I donate all the profits that I make out of this to local food banks. So, I would really appreciate it if you've gotten something out of this today or have otherwise enjoyed yourself, if you could like, subscribe, or tell a friend. Together, we can help people in need. I hope you have the most wonderful of days, and I'll see you soon.